my fiancée cheated with 3 men at her bachelorette party, but when her best friend sent me the videos 3 weeks before our wedding, I disappeared without a trace, canceled everything, and exposed the truth. Now she works at a cafe, lost everyone, and her own parents rejected her. I'm 30 years old, I work in digital marketing, and what happened a few months ago still has me processing everything. Amanda and I were 3 weeks away from getting married. Like literally 3 weeks. We already had the venue reserved, invitations sent out, everything ready, and then I found something that basically destroyed everything I thought we had. I don't even know where to start with this story, but I guess I should go back a bit so you understand how we got to that point. I met Amanda when we were 24, at one of those typical parties where a friend knows someone who knows someone else. You know how it is. She worked in the HR department of a mid-sized company. I was just starting out in my marketing career, and honestly, everything flowed supernaturally from the beginning. We dated for 6 full years. Like those 6 years where you build an entire life together, you meet the families, you travel, you fight, you make up, you make future plans. Her parents, Margaret and David, were those traditional conservative types, but cool with me. They accepted me from the start and always treated me like part of the family. Amanda's dad worked at the same company as her, in a high position. Let's say he had influence there, and that's important for later. Everything was going well, seriously. Or at least that's what I thought. We got engaged about a year and a half ago. We started planning the wedding. We looked for the perfect venue, hired the catering, all that stressful but exciting stuff at the same time. Amanda was super into the details. She wanted everything to be perfect, and I supported her as much as I could, although honestly, the flowers and tablecloth colors weren't my forte. Her best friend Crystal was helping her with everything too. Those two were inseparable since college, like that friendship where they tell each other absolutely everything and do everything together. The thing is, 3 weeks before the wedding, I came home early on a Wednesday. Normally I'd get there around 7 at night, but that day I had a meeting that got canceled, and I arrived like 4 in the afternoon. Amanda wasn't there. She sent me a message saying she was going to be with Crystal looking at some wedding thing. So I was alone in the apartment. I went to the kitchen to look for something to eat and saw a package on the table. One of those padded manila envelopes, and it had Crystal's name as the sender, but it was addressed to me. It seemed weird to me because Crystal never sent me anything directly. Everything always went through Amanda. I opened it, and inside was a USB drive. Nothing else. No note or explanation. I stood there looking at it thinking, what the hell is this? And something in my stomach told me it wasn't going to be anything good. I went to my laptop, connected it, and there was a folder with several video files. The first file was called something like Bachelorette Part 1, and when I opened it, I literally felt like I'd been kicked in the stomach. It was video from Amanda's bachelorette party from like 2 weeks ago. I knew she'd gone to spend the weekend with her friends at a cabin like 2 hours outside the city. That was totally planned, and I was fine with it. Like, go, have fun. Enjoy your last weekend as a single woman with your friends. But what I saw in that video, I can't even describe it well because it makes me feel sick again. Amanda was there with Crystal and 3 other friends. Jennifer was one of them, I think. And there were 3 guys I didn't know. At first, they were just drinking, laughing, the normal stuff, but then the game started and things got weird. Crystal was like instigating everything. I could hear her saying things like, "Come on, Amanda, it's your last chance to really have fun. Nathan will never find out. What happens at the cabin stays at the cabin." And Amanda at first was laughing like, I don't know, but you could tell she was considering it. By the time I got to the second video, it was already happening. Amanda was making out with one of the guys, then with another, and eventually, I'm not going to go into details, but there was sex with all 3 different guys at different times during the night. And Crystal was recording everything, laughing, encouraging her, like it was the funniest thing in the world. I sat there watching the complete videos because I needed to be sure of what I was seeing. I needed to confirm it wasn't some misunderstanding or something weirdly edited. But no, it was crystal clear. Amanda's face, her voice, everything. The videos lasted like 2 hours total, and I watched them all, every horrible minute. When I finished, I closed the laptop and sat there in silence. I don't know how long. Like my brain wasn't processing the information well. You know that feeling when something is so surreal that your mind just doesn't accept it? It was that, multiplied by 1,000. The first thing I thought was to confront her, immediately, wait for her to arrive and yell at her, ask for explanations, make a scene. But then I thought, no, that's what she would expect. Immediate drama, opportunity to explain, to cry, to promise it was a mistake, and I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. So instead of that, I started packing my things in silence. I took 2 large suitcases from the closet and started putting in clothes, important documents, my laptop, personal things I knew I was going to need. I worked fast, methodically, like on autopilot. I called a friend, asked him if I could stay at his place for a few days, told him it was an emergency, but that I'd explain later. He said yes without asking much. I finished packing, put everything in my car, and left the apartment. It was like 6:30 in the evening. I drove straight to a cabin resort. I know about 2 hours from the city, a quiet place where I'd been before on work trips. I rented a room for a week, paid in cash, and turned off my phone. Amanda started calling me around 8. I guess she got home and saw I wasn't there. When I turned on my phone the next day, I had like 47 missed calls and about 30 messages. I read them all. At first they were worried. "Where are you? Are you okay? Please call me." Then they became more desperate. "Nathan, seriously, you're scaring me. What happened? Please answer me." But I never responded to them. Instead, I made a different call. I called the place where we were going to have the wedding and canceled everything. We lost the deposit, like $3,000, but honestly, I didn't give a damn at that moment. The venue coordinator asked if everything was okay, and I just said, "The wedding is not going to happen. Please cancel everything," and hung up. Then I started thinking about my next move, because this wasn't going to stay like this, no sir. On the 3rd day of being at the cabin, I decided it was time to start revealing the truth, but strategically, not impulsively. First, I wanted to confront Crystal, because she was the one who had sent the videos and clearly had some reason for doing it. I sent her a message from a cafe with public Wi-Fi, told her we needed to talk, that I knew what had happened at the Bachelorette party. She responded quickly, said yes, let's meet. We met at a cafe on 7th Street, one of those generic places with wooden tables and indie music in the background. Crystal arrived on time. She looked nervous, had that expression of someone who knows they did something bad but isn't sure how much the other person knows. We sat down, and I went straight to the point. I asked her why the hell she had sent the videos, why now after 2 weeks. She sighed and told me it had been her idea, the whole Bachelorette party thing, that she had invited the guys, that she thought it would be fun, that Amanda needed to let loose a bit before getting married. But then, she told me, she started feeling guilty. She saw how Amanda acted afterward, nervous, paranoid, constantly asking if the videos were safely stored, if no one else was going to see them. Crystal told me that Amanda had asked her to delete everything, but she didn't. She kept them for some reason she didn't completely understand. And a few days ago, according to Crystal, she had like a crisis of conscience and decided I deserved to know the truth before marrying someone capable of doing that. I asked her if she really expected me to thank her for her crisis of conscience after being the one who organized the whole thing. Crystal got defensive, said she just wanted Amanda to have fun, that she didn't think things would go that far, that the guys were supposedly just strippers but then everything got out of control. I told her it was a pathetic lie, that she recorded everything, that she clearly knew exactly what was happening. She started crying, saying she was sorry, that it had been a terrible mistake. I got up and left without saying anything else, leaving her there crying over her latte. My next step was harder. I had to talk to Amanda's parents, Margaret and David. They deserved to know too, especially because they had been so involved in the wedding planning, so excited about everything. I drove to their house on a Saturday afternoon. I knew they'd be there because they always spent weekends at home. I knocked on the door and Margaret opened it. Her face lit up when she saw me, but then got worried when she saw my expression. They let me in. We sat in the living room, that formal living room they have with the uncomfortable furniture that nobody uses except for important visits. David was reading the newspaper but put it down when he saw me. I told them I had to show them something, that it was about Amanda and that it wasn't going to be easy to see. Margaret went pale immediately, asked if Amanda was okay, if something had happened to her. I told them she was physically fine, but that she had done something they needed to know about. I took out my laptop, opened one of the videos, the least explicit but clear enough for them to understand what was happening. Margaret covered her mouth with her hand. David turned red, like that red of high blood pressure and contained fury. I let them watch for about 2 minutes and then closed it. Told them there was more, but that I didn't think they needed to see everything. Margaret started crying. David stood up and started pacing back and forth in the living room, mumbling things I couldn't quite hear. After a few minutes of horrible silence, Margaret asked me what I was going to do. I told them that obviously the wedding was canceled, that I had already left the apartment, that this was over. David asked where Amanda was now. I told them I didn't know, that I hadn't answered any of her calls or messages, that she was probably still in our apartment waiting for me to come back. Margaret said something about talking to her, about understanding what had happened, but David interrupted her and said there was nothing to understand, that what we saw was clear enough. I thanked them for the years they treated me like family, told them I appreciated everything they had done for me, but that this was something I couldn't forgive or get over. I stood up to leave, and David stopped me, told me he was going to talk to Amanda, that this wasn't going to stay like this, that they didn't raise someone who did those things without consequences. I nodded and left, knowing that things for Amanda were about to get much worse. Apparently, and I found this out later from Violet, a mutual friend, Margaret and David went to the apartment that same night. Amanda was there, obviously, still calling me, sending me desperate messages. Her parents arrived and showed her what I had shown them. There was a massive confrontation. Amanda cried, tried to explain, to minimize, to say she was drunk, that Crystal pressured her, all the typical excuses. But her parents, especially David, who is super conservative and traditional with all that family values stuff, didn't want to hear any of it. They told her she had to leave their house, that she couldn't stay there after what she'd done. Amanda begged them, told them she had nowhere to go, that I had taken my things but the apartment was mainly in my name. Margaret was crying, but David was firm, told her she had made her choices and now had to live with the consequences. Amanda ended up going to stay with Jennifer, one of the friends who had been at the Bachelorette party, but that situation didn't last long because Jennifer also started distancing herself when she realized all the drama that came with Amanda. Meanwhile, I started sharing the evidence with some mutual friends. Not with everyone, only with those I felt deserved to know the truth before Amanda started creating her own narrative. I sent the videos to Rachel, another close friend, briefly explaining what had happened. Rachel responded, horrified, told me she couldn't believe Amanda was capable of doing that she always thought we were the perfect couple. I asked her not to share the videos with anyone else, that I just wanted her to know the truth, and she agreed. But you know how these things are. Information spreads. Rachel probably told someone, that someone told someone else, and eventually all our mutual friends knew what had happened. Amanda's narrative of being the confused victim who made a mistake completely fell apart when people saw real evidence. Crystal and Amanda had a massive fight, according to what Tyler, another mutual friend, told me. Amanda asked Crystal for help, begged her to talk to people, to explain that it had all been a mistake, but Crystal basically told her to fuck off, that she already had enough problems from being part of all that. Things got worse for Amanda at work. Her dad, David, worked at the same company, remember? Well, apparently after all this, David stopped protecting her from office politics. Amanda was never particularly good at her job. She stayed there mainly because her dad had influence. But once he withdrew that support, people in HR started noticing all the things Amanda did wrong or didn't do at all. There were complaints, reports, and eventually, they fired her. Officially, it was for department restructuring, but everyone knew the truth. Violet kept me updated on all this, not because I specifically asked, but because she felt I should know how things were developing. She told me Amanda had tried contacting several friends asking for help, a place to stay, borrowed money, whatever, but one by one, everyone told her no. Tyler specifically told her he didn't want to be part of her drama, that what she'd done was unforgivable, and that she needed to solve her own problems. Amanda ended up basically homeless, going from couch to couch for a while, staying with people she barely knew or who didn't know the whole story yet. Eventually, she managed to rent a small, kind of ugly apartment in a not-so-good area of the city, using what little she had left of her savings. She got a part-time job at a coffee shop, one of those places where they pay minimum wage and you have to be on your feet all day. Violet told me she saw her there once by chance, and that Amanda looked terrible, like she hadn't slept in days, with her uniform all wrinkled. All her friends eventually abandoned her. Jennifer stopped answering after the second week. Rachel blocked her number. Even Crystal ended up cutting all contact after Amanda publicly blamed her for the whole mess. Violet was the last to go. She told me she tried to stay neutral, but that Amanda became so desperate and manipulative that she just couldn't anymore. She told me that in their last conversation, Amanda begged her to convince me to talk to her, to give her a chance to explain, and when Violet told her that wasn't going to happen, Amanda yelled at her and called her a traitor. I meanwhile stayed at the cabin resort for 2 weeks, then moved to my friend's apartment for another month while looking for my own place. I got a smaller apartment but in a better area. Basically started over. I had to explain to my family what had happened, show them evidence when they didn't completely believe me, deal with their sadness and anger about the situation. My mom cried. My sister wanted to go find Amanda and yell at her. My dad just said I'd done the right thing by leaving and not looking back. At work, I had to explain why I canceled my wedding so suddenly. My boss was understanding, gave me a few extra days off to process everything. My coworkers supported me, although some looked at me with that uncomfortable pity they didn't know how to hide. But honestly, I was fine. I mean, obviously it hurt, and there were moments where I questioned whether I'd been too harsh, whether I should have given her a chance to explain. But then I'd remember those videos. Remember Amanda's face while she was kissing those guys. And I knew I'd made the right decision. Amanda tried to contact me directly a few more times. She sent me long emails, like 10-paragraph letters explaining how she was drunk, how Crystal pressured her, how she never wanted to hurt me, how she'd give anything to turn back time. But I never responded. Not once. I eventually changed my phone number, blocked all her social media profiles, basically erased her from my life completely. Some friends told me it was cruel, that I should at least give her some closure, but I didn't owe her anything, especially not closure. The last time I heard anything about Amanda was about 2 months ago. Violet told me, before she also cut contact, that Amanda had tried to go back to her parents, that she went to their house crying, begging them to let her stay, even if just temporarily. Margaret opened the door, but David wouldn't let her in. Told her through the door that she had made her choices and now had to live with them, that there was no place for her in that house as long as she didn't fully acknowledge what she'd done and the consequences of her actions. Amanda stood there outside, crying for like half an hour before leaving. Now I work, I go out with friends, like I live my normal life. I started going out with someone new a few weeks ago. Nothing serious yet, but it's going well, and she knows the whole story because I decided to be completely honest from the beginning. She asked me if I felt guilty about how everything turned out for Amanda, and I honestly told her no. That Amanda created her own situation, and that I just made sure people knew the truth. Would I have preferred to find out another way? Sure. Would I have preferred none of this happened? Obviously. But it happened, and I handled the situation the only way that made sense to me. Sometimes I think about everything we lost, the plans we had, the life we were going to build together. We were going to have kids, buy a house, grow old together. All that traditional shit people dream about. And she destroyed it all in one night of alcohol and bad decisions. I don't feel satisfaction about how everything turned out for her. That would be psychotic. But I don't feel remorse for showing people who she really was either. People have a right to know who they're dealing with. Her parents had a right to know what kind of person they raised. Our friends had a right to know the complete truth. Last week I passed by the coffee shop where Amanda works. It was completely accidental. I was in that area for work. I saw her through the window, cleaning tables, with her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, ugly brown uniform, no makeup. She looked tired, defeated. Our eyes met for a second. She saw me, and I saw in her face that moment of recognition, followed by something that looked like shame and hope at the same time. Like she thought I was going to go in, talk to her, give her that chance she'd been waiting for months. But I just looked away and kept walking. There was nothing to say. There was no conversation worth having. That part of my life ended the day I saw those videos, and there's no amount of explanations or apologies that can change that.